One.
Good morning. This is Councilmember Monica Peters. I'm the chair of the Prosperity, Livability, and Safety Committee. We're calling this meeting to order November 6th. Today we have with us Councilmember Harmon, Councilmember Johnson, and myself. Councilwoman McKeever is not able to attend. Today we have item 2025-457, the presentation of the High Point Metropolitan Planning Organization. Staff will provide a presentation on the High Point 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And we have Greg Venable, our Transportation Director. And this is for information only, no vote is needed. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. As Madam Chair said, I'm Greg Venable, Transportation Director for the City of High Point. I'm giving you an update today on our 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan that is done and completed by our High Point Metropolitan Planning Organization. And I'll go into a little bit of detail first to explain exactly what an MPO is and what it does, and then we'll move into review of the plan. So the MPO, it's a federally mandated transportation planning agency. It's required in all urbanized areas that have a population of more than 50,000 people. So you see the North Carolina map there. The High Point MPO is one of 20 across North Carolina. That map shows 19. I think after the last census, there was an additional MPO added in the Sandhills area. So it's guided by two committees, the Transportation Advisory Committee, TAC, it's the policy board, which is made up of our elected officials from the region, and then a technical coordinating committee, which is the staff level board. And that board makes recommendations to the policy board, and then they vote on items coming before them. So our structure, the MPO, again, High Point is the lead planning agency for the MPO. You see the map there of our boundary. It's federally required, and we receive federal dollars to do transportation planning for that entire region there you see on your right. That's an 80-20 split, so 80 federal, and then 20% is local match, which is divided up by all the member jurisdictions. And you see the budget there. We have a budget this year of about $486,000. And our member jurisdictions, obviously High Point, Jamestown, Archdale, Trinity, Lexington, Walburg, Denton, Thomasville, and then 4 counties, Guilford County, Randolph County, Davidson County, and just a small portion for Forsyth County. So let's move on to the 2050 MTP. So there's basically 8 sections in the MTP, and this is a large document. We have an introduction, background section, goals, our public involvement, transportation modes, which we talk about roadways, bike lanes, greenways, sidewalks, project development, financial analysis, and then our performance measures. So the MTP is a long-range transportation plan, so obviously it looks out to 2050. It's updated every 5 years, and it's a blueprint for guiding transportation investments throughout the area. And it's governed by our federal legislation, which is the Infrastructure and Investments and Jobs Act, and before that it was the FAST Act, which was fixing I have to remember what this is now, fixing America's surface transportation. So yeah, it carries on one or the other, and the federal legislation establishes planning factors that we have to include in the plan. So these are 10 factors that are included in the plan. You have economic vitality, safety, security, accessibility, and mobility. You have to enhance the environment and promote energy conservation. All right, Damon. Integration and connectivity, efficiency of the system, preservation of the existing system, resiliency and reliability, and also enhanced travel and tourism. So we kind of look at several factors when we develop the plan. We have our background information, which looks at our demographics. So the map here is our population density for the MPO. We have population, employment, we look at housing and income. We also look at our existing transportation network, our road network, look at our traffic counts, our ADTs on those road networks. Also, this is a multimodal plan, so we look at the network for our other modes as well, our sidewalk network, our greenway network, how do those interact, our transit network as well. And then we also have an environmental component where we look at topography, floodplains, protected areas, and land use. So the goals for the MPO and for this plan, this is the vision for the MTP. So High Point MPO 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan continues to promote investment and multimodal and connected transportation network, supporting the diverse needs of user groups within the High Point region. And we meet that vision by these goals that are listed here. And these goals, as you see these, they kind of match those 10 planning factors that you see on the previous slide. So regional mobility, safety and security, integration and efficiency, preservation and resiliency, and economic development. So we did do a pretty substantial public involvement piece with this. We had online survey, stakeholder interviews, technical coordinating committee comments and feedback, the advisory committee. We had website engagement and the public review. So for the survey, we had 159 respondents. We had 1,900 data points on the map that they had put out there that they wanted to see some things happen on that in the area, and then over 300 written responses. And this is just some information based off those survey results. So obviously, and it's not surprising, 90.8% travel by car. 19 like to travel by biking, 43 transit, and 33 by walking. But the main part I want to show about this slide is we asked the question of how would you spend the dollars? What would you put the money toward if you could for transportation dollars? And this was what the survey respondents came up with. And if you look down at the bottom there, over 40% or about 50% came up with greenways, sidewalks, public transit. And you also have 24% that said widen or repair roadways, but there are only 6.4% that had new roadways on there. So that was very interesting. So what are the modes that we looked at? So we talked about the roadways. We also looked at intersections, active transportation, sidewalks, greenways, bike lanes, shared use paths. Obviously transit, that's the map there to the right, is a big component. This is just a map of our system, but this is a regional plan. So Davidson County has their transit system, and then we have to include PART because they provide the regional service. So all transit agencies were included in the plan. We looked at freight, aviation. We have an airport in Davidson County that's within the MPO boundary, but we also had information from PTI and then passenger rail. So project development. So how do we come up with the projects that we have in the plan? So roadway projects were pulled from several sources. We looked at a list of projects from our previous MTP. So what projects were in there that had been completed. So we removed those projects. We carried some of those over. We analyzed those projects that were in the existing plan. We also looked at the existing state transportation improvement plan. So that's the funding document for the state for transportation projects. That's a 26 to 35 timeframe, and in that document, the first 5 years of that document are funded. So we kind of looked at those second 5 years of those unfunded projects and included those as well. And then also we have a plan that's called our Comprehensive Transportation Plan. I know it gets a little bit confusing, but the MTP is a federally mandated plan and the CTP is a state mandated plan. But both of those plans kind of coordinate, and we make sure that the projects that are on the CTP merge into the MTP and can be transferred over as you go through the process. And then we looked at, some of you, and Monica's familiar with our prioritization process, and that's basically what it used to be called our needs list. But we have to submit a list of projects to the state every 2 years for projects to be included in the state transportation improvement program. So we looked at that list of projects as well and included those in the MTP. So the next step is financial analysis. So the plan has to be financially constrained, fiscally and financially constrained, whereas the CTP that I mentioned before, the comprehensive plan, is not. But we had to divided the time frame into horizon years, and you had to allocate funding and anticipate what the funding levels will be over the life of the plan. So you have the four time frames there. Horizon years is 26 to 30, 31 to 35, 36 to 40, and 41 to 50. And we also have an unfunded category, which are projects that we see as a need, but they're well into the future after 2050. So this is the 2 years combined, 26 to 30 and 31 to 35. So you can see the projects there on the right. Several projects in High Point. We have the Johnson Street, Sandy Ridge Road project. We have the East Chester Road widening project. And then we have, it's still included on the plan even though it's complete because the state hasn't closed it out yet, but the Jamestown Parkway as well. So the interchange project on South Main Street is on there. So these are all projects that are anticipated to be completed by 2035. This is a little bit hard to see, but we have the next time frame is the 2040. You see some of the projects there. A couple more projects that we have in the plan show up on East Chester, continuing to add the additional lanes on East Chester in the future. It's hard to see some of those others. And I can give you the website of the actual plan where you can dig a little bit deeper into these and get more information on each of these horizon year timeframes. This is your 41 to 50. You see several other projects here in High Point. We have what we call the north-south connector on the west side of the city. It basically would run from 85 up to Sandy Ridge Road, Johnson Street, Sandy Ridge Road, to provide access to the airport from the Thomasville area and south and west High Point. There is the West Lexington Road project you see there kind of going out into Davidson County. So there are several projects included here. And obviously, you know, we cover Davidson County, so you have a lot of projects in the Davidson County area as well. So our last chapter is our performance measures. So we have highway safety, pavement and bridge condition, system performance, transit asset management, and transit safety and reliability. So these are all performance measures that are in the plan. I'm just going to touch on the highway safety for this presentation. There's a slide that's missing. So we looked at, there's 5 categories for highway safety. So there's, I'd have to go back and look at them, I apologize, but there's number of fatalities, serious fatalities, crashes, crash rate, and those are all done by NCDOT. So when the MPO, we adopt our safety performance measures, MPO has the opportunity to develop their own safety measures. However, most MPOs choose to adopt what the state has. So all of our roadway safety measures are adopted from what the state has adopted. And part of that is because the amount of time and resources it takes to collect and go over that data and analyze it is just, we just don't have the staff time to do that. So we take those safety measures, we adopt those. Our safety measures for the MPO were adopted in January of this year. So they get adopted every January. So we'll come back and adopt those again in January. So that's kind of the major points. As I mentioned, the plan is on the High Point DOT website, the MPO website. I encourage you to go out and take a look. And if you want to get, dig deeper into the actual projects and things like that, feel free to do that. And if you have any comments, please let us know. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I got a couple.
I know you do.
Everybody's shocked. So this 2050 plan, does it ever come before elected bodies to sort of bless the plan? Or is it empowered on its own to sort of submit
Right,
this?
so it's adopted at the MPO level, which is made up of elected officials
Right, yeah.
from each member jurisdiction.
Okay.
Yep. And that's not to say that it can't. I don't think we've ever done that in the past. I think it could. So we update it every 5 years.
Right.
There is potential that it could come for information purposes, but then the voting member on the TAC has the final vote on the
okay.
plan.
So this East Chester Road widening project that's happening, first I'm hearing about this.
Well,
So where is that on East Chester?
Yeah, so we submitted a project and the state funded the project. So it's on East Chester, basically from Hickswood Road
Okay.
going north. The original project limits went all the way up to Gallimore Dairy Road. Because of the cost and rising costs for projects across the state, they reduced that project back to just south of Willard Dairy Road, or right at Willard Dairy Road. So they took that northern piece off. And what the project will add an additional lane in each direction on East Chester, and then it will, at selected intersections, it will create what's called a super street or concept, which is removing those left turns. So people have to make a right turn at a signal and go down and make a U-turn at another signal. So most signals operate, that creates better movement throughout the corridor. So most signals operate as an 8-phase, so you have to wait for the left turning movements to
Right.
get out of the way and then you proceed. But this is a 2-phase signal, so all those movements on each side can move at the same time and then they go down, and so you're splitting those movements up. So it's better coordination, better movement throughout the corridor.
Yeah. So when do you expect that to begin?
So that one, I think it's for right-of-way in 2028 and construction in 2030. I can I can double check though, but I think that's the date.
It's going to be a minute. I'll be on Medicare by then. All right.
And obviously, there's always issues with funding, right? I mean, we're going through the issues now with project increases, price increases for projects. So, the MPO gets a certain amount of submittals each time we submit projects, every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We used to get 22. Those have been reduced to 15 for this next submittal process. So they're trying to make sure that they can build what's in the plan. So,
All right, that makes sense, yeah. This money's originally federal, correct?
It is federal.
And it comes to the state, and the state decides on it.
Correct. So as far as the plan for the MPO, the planning dollars, yes, that's federal dollars that are pushed down to the state. They divide, there's a formula that divides all the money up per MPO. And then that's the money we use to do the planning with. So the funds that we get pay for about maybe a half to a third of the positions we have for the MPO. So we have 4 positions right now.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Johnson, question for you. You mentioned that Eastchester, that they kind of shortened the plan. So as things go up, as prices go up, there's a possibility that it could be shortened again.
Potentially. We hope that those project limits will remain the same now since they've already shortened it one time. But that's always, with the funding and the issues we have, that's always a thing that we're going to have to face, right? It could be reduced again. I would like to think it wouldn't, but all the projects are subject. So, we have when you have the TIP, the funding document for the state, it's a 10-year plan. Only the first 5 years are guaranteed funding, right? So if it's in that first 5 years, and that's for right-of-way. So this project falls in 2028, I think I said. So I think it's guaranteed of funding at that level. But again, price increases, they can come back and change that. The second 5 years is what has to be, it's not funded. It's in the plan, but it's not funded. So all those projects that are in that second 5 years they go back into the prioritization process to be rescored.
So it's best really to try to do it within that 5 year.
Right, yeah.
'Cause
Obviously,
fund
the
the
quicker you can get it done and, saving those costs, for sure. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, I've got a couple of questions. Okay, first of all, I want you to please share the updates on Main Street. I know that a lot of people have been, complaining about, potholes and stuff, especially around the South Main.
Yep.
And I know the update from the NCDOT, but I'd love for you to share that from the
Sure.
intersection coming up and about the resurfacing and all that, if you'll share that, please.
Sure. So we currently have a project to make improvements to South Main Street between Russell Avenue and Grimes. So that project is underway. Currently, they're doing some work over on Elm Street right now, but on Monday the 10th, they'll transition over to Main Street. So Main Street will be closed through that section completely up until the spring market. So we're doing work in there. We're replacing water and sewer lines, putting in electrical lines underground, making some pedestrian and safety improvements, enhancements through the sidewalks and the intersection. We've worked with the state. The state had a resurfacing project to go through there. But because of this project, they've delayed that project to resurface it. So basically, once we get our project complete, the state will come back in and resurface Main Street from Business 85 interchange, US 29, north to Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. And that'll take place once this project is complete. And the anticipated schedule is to have this project done in early October of 26.
Okay. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, yeah, here's a question. Are there any areas on Main Street that the speed limit's 45?
I believe there are some north as you're heading out of town going north. I think
Oh, okay.
it transitions to 45 up there.
Okay, so after
And
you
I'd
get
have to
through
check
town.
on South Main Street. It's probably, I'm not sure since we butt up against Archdale, so it may stay 35 all the way through the south end. But I'd have to check on that.
Okay. And then also, I know that we spoke with some Division 7 engineers yesterday. Will you also kind of share like some of the updates of safety features that they're planning
Sure.
on putting on and the restriping? And then also, in that restriping, is there an opportunity for us to look at the reduction of lane sizes?
So yes, there is a safety project with NCDOT. So the state was awarded some funding, and they decided to they selected 5 corridors across the state to consider pedestrian safety improvements for. Main Street and High Point was selected as one of those corridors. So they're going to come in, once we do the resurfacing, the state does the resurfacing, they're going to make safety improvements at specific intersections. So that would include, if there are no pedestrian signals, adding pedestrian signals, looking at the crosswalks, if there's a need for enhanced crosswalks. When I say enhanced, not just your standard 2 lines, it would be more of the ladder type, the really white ladder type crosswalk that's more visible. And then if there's a need for ADA ramps at those intersections, it would also install those. That funding is, we have several projects going on sidewalk-wise, so one of those projects is on Main Street, so that funding will take place and be available when we go back to resurface. And you talked about looking at the lanes there is always a possibility to look at the lanes on Main Street when you resurface, or any roadway, right? So, so we do that regularly, and there is the option or the potential to maybe reduce lanes or look at the lane configuration on South Main Street at that time. That would take approval, obviously, from the city as well as DOT.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it was kind of encouraging. So for those who may not know, there's been a charrette all week that talking about Main Street, and David Cole has been in town with Kittleson as well. And one thing I thought was real super interesting the other night at the community event is one of the folks made a comment that back in 2014, he was absolutely opposed to any type of street dieting. But now that he's seen, what's happened with our stadium and becoming more pedestrian friendly, mm-hmm. that now he's totally on board. He and his wife have been to different cities all over the country and see where that's worked. And so that was, I know we've been talking about that for over 10 years. So to see that maybe the timing could be right to really make High Point a more pedestrian friendly city, sure. That would be awesome.
Yep.
So, okay. And are there any other questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Well, seeing that there aren't any, thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you.
All right. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.